Hello and welcome again to Not Fake News. Don't forget to share, subscribe, and smash that like button. We have a couple breaking stories for you, so let's do this. First, Ivanka Trump was asked about James Comey this morning. Suddenly, all hell broke loose by Paris Swade. And Newt Gingrich just said 3 words about Mueller that will end Trump-Russia investigation for good. Story by Emily Noack. So let's get into this one first. Newt Gingrich, former House Speaker and current informal advisor to President, urged Republicans to rethink the appointment of Robert Mueller as special counsel in the Trump-Russia affair. Here is his tweet. Republicans are delusional if they think the special counsel is going to be fair. Look at who he's hiring. Check FEC reports. Time to rethink. Gingrich has good reason for concern. Mueller will be investigating former FBI Director James Comey, a very close friend for over 15 years. Mueller and Comey are so close, they have some have described them as brothers in arms. How can Mueller objectively investigate James Comey? It's impossible. Gingrich also outlined more issues with the Mueller appointment in an interview on Sunday, during which he claimed that Comey supposedly leaked government information to the press so that an independent counsel would be appointed. That independent counsel. So Comey leaked information so an independent counsel would be called, and the next day it was. And who? His best friend. Gingrich let loose on the tirade during the interview, saying, I think Congress should now intervene and they should abolish the independent counsel because Comey made it so clear Comey made it so clear that it is the poison fruit of deliberate manipulation by the FBI director leaking to the New York Times deliberately to set up this particular situation. It's very sick. He ended with, it's very clear that Comey hates Trump. Furthermore, the independent counsel is already shaping up to be less than independent. At least 4 of Mueller's special counsel team are Democratic donors. Justice Department Deputy Solicitor General Michael Dreeben, Jeannie Rhee, James Qualls, and Andrew Weissman have all donated to various Clinton and Obama campaigns over the years. Newt Gingrich is definitely onto something. Mueller cannot be objective with Comey as his best friend and with 4 special investigators who are hardcore Democrats. This is big news, folks. So share this 1 million times. Get the word out. This special investigation into Trump's Russian ties and Comey leaking will be unfair if Mueller is in charge. Next story. Ivanka Trump was asked about James Comey this morning. Suddenly, all hell broke loose. And because we're not fake news, and I watched this, I'm going to tell you, it's not that big. She didn't freak out, and no one freaked out like we're thinking, right? Ivanka Trump did a very rare television interview and sat down with the host of Fox and Friends to talk about her father's administration. She says the swamp is awful. It is a very surprisingly candid interview. Watch the full video.
Sure. So we're very excited, and this is honestly what it's all about. I mean, we moved down to Washington. We want to be helpful. We want to do big things, important things, and there's nothing more important than enabling.
Is it harder than you thought, though? Is it harder than you thought to stick to the things you want to do because of what keeps coming up, whether it's the Russia investigation or something else?
It is hard. And there's a level of viciousness that I was not expecting. I was not expecting the intensity of this experience. But this isn't supposed to be easy. Mm-hmm. My father and this administration intends to be transformative. And we want to do big, bold things. And we're looking to change the status quo. So I didn't expect it to be easy.
Right.
I think some of the distractions and some of the the ferocity was, I was a little blindsided by on a personal level. But for me, I'm trying to keep my head down, not listen to the noise, and just work really hard to make a positive impact in the lives of many people. I mean, if you want to, at the end of the day, if you want to think about difficult, it's the factory worker who's been laid off. Difficult is, the mother who's lost a child to opioid abuse. So these are the real challenges, and I think that does put it in perspective for me. Every time we get out into the country and meet with American people who are very optimistic about what's happening, and they see the economy and it's just booming. Small businesses have this sense of just vigor, and I was talking with somebody the other day who was referring to it as the animal spirits of small business owners have been released. So there is a tremendous energy, but there's also real challenges, and that's what we're looking to address.
Your father had his first.
What's that? You wanna? Okay, you know what, folks? What do we got? Sean Hannity. Okay, we're going to go with 7 minutes. Boiling, the left's hatred of Trump hits new low. I was going to end it, but let's throw in a bonus. Mario and Ravis Kingdom battle. Oh, Mario. Oh, she's hot. Nice. Love at first. Let her go, Mario. She's got a weird look in her eye. And she's got funny friends. Alright. Wake up, America.
Welcome back. It's time now for Wake Up America. Just when you thought it was impossible.
Shouldn't it say wake the hell up, America?
Liberal left-wing nut jobs in Hollywood and Broadway have reached a new low, lower even than the low that was reached last week when Kathy Griffin simulated the beheading of President Trump.
Lower than that?
With a bloody head dangling from her non-talented hands in an obvious hat tip to ISIS terrorists. Now a production of the Shakespearean play Julius Caesar went lower with a horrifying and tasteless scene. In the Shakespearean play Julius Caesar is assassinated. In the Shakespeare in the Park adaptation, President Trump is assassinated. The Trump character is stabbed repeatedly over and over, hundreds of times, blood flying everywhere, cast members trying to rip the president apart. Multiple assassins take turns stabbing a dying president. Now, we highlighted this disgusting scene, and the sponsors reacted swiftly. Delta Airlines is Julius Caesar's largest sponsor. They pulled out of funding for the production. Bank of America followed as well, because this isn't art, this is just disgusting. Now, that's my opinion, but apparently not the opinion of the New York Times, who vowed to remain as sponsors of the play, as well as Time Warner, who will also remain as sponsors. Unbelievably, CNN host Fareed Zakaria just called the Trump assassination
Time Warner, also known as Spectrum,
play a, quote, masterpiece. No New York Times, Time Warner, or CNN. It's not art, it's not free speech, and certainly not a masterpiece. It's just plain hate. But I do remember something far less hate-filled happening in 2013. There was a rodeo clown who wore an Obama mask in the ring. He tried to have fun at the then president's expense, but you left-wing media hypocrites went apoplectic. That rodeo clown was fired over your outrage at such a display of disrespect for a seated president. Well, lefties, apply that same outrage to the folks at Julius Caesar. I dare you.
And if you don't you ever open your damn filthy mouths again.
You would be demanding that play be shut down. Or, more predictably, you'll defend the play as artistic expression and expose the ominous undercarriage of the liberal media, which is loaded with hypocrisy and devoid of American values. All right, now I'm going to give my free speech advocate on my left, screen right, a shot at this. Am I too harsh on the liberal media for not speaking up about this play?
I think that they lost 2 sponsors, and I think that that's not hard to see why when you're talking about what's going to be socially acceptable. When you start to involve something where there's the depiction of the assassination of a president, a lot of times that's going to be unpopular and you will face consequences. However, those consequences have to come from outside of the law. In a free society, this is free speech. In order for it to not be free speech, it'd have to be a direct threat. It's obviously a fictional play is obviously not a direct threat.
And can I let you point that out?
Is free speech.
Absolutely. And,
you know, but free speech goes hand in hand with intelligent thought. You know, you have to use your brain when you're thinking and say to yourself, is this something that is it's just wrong? Is it right? Is it wrong? Use your common sense. You can't just go spouting out everything. Yeah, you have free speech, but you also have an obligation to use your mind and think about things before you say them. It might be hurtful to someone.
And I'd like to point out that I'm not against free speech, hate speech. I'm against boycotts, but in this case, this whole monologue was about the hypocrisy coming from the left. That rodeo clown who put an Obama mask on got fired, and he was told he was never allowed at the rodeo again, in the rodeo circuit again.
Eric, I think you're a little hard because I think that both sides are starting to get called out, maybe slower than you would like, but it's starting to happen. There's the CNN host that referred to the president as a piece of feces, out quick, also a CNN host. So, and as Pat said, this particular play losing both Delta and I believe Bank of America.
Are you talking about Reza Aslan, that piece of crap, feces, who called the president that? Yeah.
As sponsors. So I do think people are starting to see that there is a free speech, absolutely. We all agree with that. But free speech isn't necessarily free. There's a consequence that comes along with voicing your opinion when certain people take issue with it.
Yeah, and Keisha, the word
right. You can say whatever you want, but there are going to be consequences if you go too far.
Fire is not necessarily, it's free speech. You can yell fire whenever you want unless you can put people at danger.
Right.
Some people are acting on these impulses of depiction of a president being assassinated or beheaded.
Well, I personally think that people need to lighten up a bit, and I understand that it could be perceived as disrespectful, but it's a play. Isn't that what acting's all about? I don't feel that this should be taken to the extent of...
How do you think she'd feel if someone made a play about someone stabbing her to death? You think she would be like, oh, it's just a play. It's just a play. It means nothing. So what, they're stabbing me 100 times on stage?
You know, they still have tons of other sponsors.
The difference is this play has been going on, Keisha, for a long time. Shakespeare in the Park. President Obama was actually Julius Caesar at one point, but the killing of President Obama's Julius Caesar wasn't anything like this. It wasn't a mauling. It wasn't repeated stabbing, pulling at him, blood flying everywhere. It's a completely different depiction.
I think that the production feels that this is more of an artistic expression. It's not
of what,
necessarily...
Though, what are they expressing? Their disdain and hate for President Trump.
Well, we had it on with President Obama. Like you said, the thing with the clown, but our politics is at such an all-time low and just disrespectful all around. But I think in these situations, we can't necessarily say that it's just outright trying to make a threat to the president.
Okay, let me ask you this, Ethan. Is it by calling out of the left? I'm pointing out that they were apoplectic about that rodeo clown, and all he did was wear an Obama mask in a rodeo ring. He wasn't killed. Nothing bad happened to him. He just wore the mask. Meanwhile, President Trump here in this depiction is destroyed, is mauled, is pulled apart.
Yeah, I'm also not pleased with that adaptation. I mean, art is in the eye of the beholder, so they have the artistic free right to do that. The advertisers, the sponsors have a right to pull out as well. I am not a fan of boycotts in any way, shape, or form of anybody who is expressing their free speech. I am a fan of the individual to use their wallet as the #1 way to vote in this country beyond the voting booth. It's even more powerful. I want the violence. I want that stuff to end and dial it back. This is back to what we were talking about a little bit ago. We need to start finding where we have all these commonalities as Americans and working together and being friends with one another and talking to each other, not just attacking the other side. Right. And I think we can do that.
The idea of the tolerant left is certainly a myth. I don't think there's tolerance anywhere on any side. Everything's so politicized, us versus them. Right. But you got to say free speech. You said this didn't fall under free speech, and I don't understand how it does.
They're being tolerant to this, the left. But when it was President Obama that was the subject, They weren't so
But you know what also, Eric, who wasn't, I didn't hear any outrage from the right, though, Eric, when President Obama was repeatedly depicted in a noose hanging as if this was the Jim Crow South. So again, I think consistency on the issue becomes very important.
But that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for consistency. Both are wrong, and we would call that out, and I would be the first to call that out.
But I agree with Ebony. When President Obama was in office, he was disrespected and on so many levels, and even he stood there and took it. And what did he have to do? All he had to do was do his job. But I think that now we're in such an adversarial climate, and it's this side against that side.
Guys, look, in 5 months of a presidency, we've already had his head being severed by Kathy Griffin. We've had Madonna calling out saying we need to blow up the White House. We have Snoop Dogg pointing a gun at the president's head. And now we have this mauling of a president in Shakespeare in the Park. In 8 years of President Obama's term, I just don't recall that much.
I don't think you recall it. I think that's personal, Eric, because I know I recall. I remember seeing dummies of him on fire, literally.
And so Bush had that too, though.
No, not lynching. Not lynching.
Well, no, I remember House of Thrones, I believe it was, had Bush's head on a stake in one of the episodes. No, Game of Thrones.
Oh, Game of Thrones. Okay. Again, though, that's a different from the racial reference with Obama as a lynched person in the Jim Crow South.
Fair enough. We'll leave it right there.
Oh, what is this? I love Kellyanne Conway. Oh, God, it's 16 minutes? Oh, man.
Those of us who run it.
When was this?
The hours we put in to how we treat our people.
A couple days ago.
In Washington, D.C. is Kellyanne Conway, counselor to the president. Kellyanne, thank you for being here today. So did the president watch this testimony live today?
So today at the White House was business as usual. The president hosted his usual array of meetings. He had the White House Infrastructure Summit. I and a couple other senior staffers accompanied him to the Faith and Freedom Conference, where he received multiple standing ovations for standing up for religious liberty, for even talking about withdrawing the Paris Accords. He's aware of the testimony. He had a lot of meetings this morning with his national security team, Secretaries Mattis and Tillerson, General McMaster. Also attended a couple of private policy meetings. So he, of course, every single day is doing something at that White House to move his agenda forward. And today was no different. I do want to make the case to everyone that whereas Washington said it was just going to shut down, literally people took the day off from work to watch this, the president did not. He worked for the American people. On infrastructure, he has committed at least $200 million and probably upwards of $1 trillion for the public-private partnerships to restore our crumbling bridges and roads, and also to make a more modern, better run, more accessible, less hassle, more hassle-free, I should say, airline system, that people will spend less time on the tarmac, will have a safer, more sure system. That affects all travelers, and in fact, that's a nonpartisan issue. It would be great to have some bipartisan support on things like infrastructure.
So, just to get back to his reaction to all of this, though, and I understand that business went ahead as usual. He had a lot of meetings today, and he wants very much to keep the agenda moving forward, is doing everything they can to do that. Nonetheless, this testimony was significant today. What was his response to the things that he did hear from it, or the pieces of it that he did see?
Well, at the White House, we've been referring everyone, Martha, to his private lawyer, Mark Kasowitz. And today, I'm happy to report, I can actually refer you to Mark Kasowitz, the president's private lawyer's statement. And you ran some of it then. I really would tell the public, if you want to see the full statement from Mark Kasowitz, go ahead and pull it up. It's on, I'm sure you can access it publicly, if not through the White House website. And it's an important statement because it reflects, the president's opinion reflects his lawyer's characterization of this particular testimony. But I think it's important because, you know, if this were like a classic legal case, you'd have one side go and then the other side go. That's not how congressional testimony works. The other side does not respond, and so it's very important that Mark Kasowitz responded instead.
When he did respond, he responded to two very specific things. He said the president never said, you know, I hope we can get past this with regard to the Comey testimony. And he also said that the president never asked Jim Comey for a pledge of loyalty. So now you have a situation where Jim Comey says he wrote all these copious notes. He's declared what he says happened in the room. We heard Mark Kasowitz, the statement that you referred to, saying what the president's recollection of all of that was. So, you know, today we heard Jim Comey say, Lordy, I hope there are tapes. Are there tapes of these discussions of the president and Jim Comey?
I can't comment on that, but I would really, everybody who's going to look at Jim Comey's testimony should also look at Mark Casler's statement. I think that's important in this case. The other thing I would just mention is that...
Why can't you comment on whether or not there are tapes?
Because I can't comment. I work in the White House.
But if there are...
Folks, listen to me. I don't know why I got this feeling. And I'm so right so often. Trump has tapes. I don't know personally. I'm telling you, I can feel it. Why? Because I know Trump by now. He recorded that living hell. He recorded every syllable. That recording was going on before they even entered the room. Yes, he's got recordings. Yes, he has recordings of everything. Not just that, probably of every single person he ever met with. Okay? Because Trump knew before he got into this that there was going to be trouble. And he recorded everyone. Do I know this for a fact? No. Is this my feeling? Yes. Am I usually right? Yes. I think I'm right about this.
There are no tapes, then wouldn't you just say there are no tapes?
I can't comment on that. And actually, the president himself has said he won't comment any further on that.
All right. In terms of the agenda, you know, given everything that's going on with this testimony that we saw today, what's the White House's plan in terms of, you know, the next few weeks? Because obviously you'd love to head into the 4th of July with other things to point to and say, you know, we're getting somewhere in healthcare in the Senate. Yes. What's your plan for the next few weeks?
Sure. Thanks for asking, Martha, because, you know, my main grievance is not just biased media coverage. I think that's easy for Americans to see when they want to find it. We're seeing a lot of it in the last couple of days. In fact, my grievance is always incomplete coverage. So thanks for at least giving us a platform to talk about all the other issues that have real people impact.
The American people do care about all of these things.
And it impacts them.
And a lot of them are frustrated with the lack of, you know, things that they can actually look at as achievements so far from the White House. So what can they expect?
Wow.
Pardon me.
Really?
So yesterday the president was in Cincinnati, Ohio, and he had around him people who are actual victims of Obamacare, reminding us why it's so important to get rid of this plan that did not help all Americans. It said it would help. And you see these Obamacare victims, you realize the importance of having increased quality, increased access, lower prices. Some people had the worst possible outcome when it came to Obamacare. They had this health insurance card that they literally could not use because the premiums were so high they couldn't afford to use it. And so healthcare is moving.
Okay, I want to slow down. Do you understand what she just said? Because you're going to hear that a lot. Oh, Trump is going to take away 20, 30 even, I've heard. The 20, 30 million people who have health care are going to lose it because of Trump, that piece of crap. Oh, no, that's not how it works. Let me explain. Most cities in America don't have an insurer, a pharmaceutical insurer, any longer. The few that do remain have $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 deductibles. What does that mean? That means if you break your arm and it costs $50,000 to fix, yes, the insurance will cover it, but you must come up with $8,000 first. Do you have $8,000 right now? Some people, most people don't have $8,000 just ready to burn at any given moment. So, what good is having a shiny card in your pocket that says Obamacare if you can't go to the hospital and get that arm fixed because you don't have the deductible to pay first? So, you have 30 million people, I'll give it to them, 30 million that have Obamacare. Maybe 10% of them can pay the $5,000 to $8,000 deductible if they got hurt or sick. And the other 90% can't. And out of that, out of all of that, most counties don't even have an insurer any longer, meaning no health care. Even though you have Obamacare card in your pocket, you don't have health care. The Democrats don't give a crap about this.
apace in the Senate. Leader McConnell and his team feel very confident that they will be able to get a vote sometime soon, and that package is moving forward.
Sometime soon, meaning I know he met with leadership the other day at the White House, so sometime over the course of the summer, you expect legislation?
Before the August recess. But, you know, we've been living with Obamacare for a very long time, 7 years. And it takes a long time to turn a sinking battleship. But that aside, this is still infrastructure and jobs month, so the president will continue to go on the road and take his case directly to the people, continue to announce special projects. Just today, he met with governors, municipal leaders like mayors, and also tribal leaders, trying to institute this public-private partnership for infrastructure. Why? Because if you just move the money from the federal government to the state government, you're just moving the funding source. What he's trying to do is spur that innovation and that investment closer to home, so that, say, just hypothetically, the federal government provides 20% of the funding. You're encouraging to get the other 80% through that private piece, and you're encouraging those mayors and those governors and those tribal leaders who are closer to those who will invest the money, who will create the jobs, who will execute and complete the projects. It's very exciting, actually. This was called stimulus under President Obama. A fraction, I've read, 10% of the money actually made it to infrastructure. The rest just goes in these big black hole programs in Washington, D.C. that don't really fix those roads and bridges, don't build things. We don't build things anymore. And he and Secretary Elaine Chao tomorrow, Secretary of Transportation Elaine Chao tomorrow, will have a big...
She just basically said in no uncertain terms that most of the money is being taken and spent. Someone's robbing America. And it's these little organizations that that Obama set up and the other presidents in the past set up. It's just, it goes to an organization that's supposed to fix the streets, and what do? They take 10, 20, 30%, fix some streets, and keep 70%. That's robbing us.
Roads and rails recovery infrastructure announcement at the Department of Transportation. People should really tune in to listen to that, because it affects every single person in this country as they try to move from point A to point B in a more seamless, safer way.
Before I let you go, the president said today that he's under siege. What has he told all of you at the White House in terms of how to deal with what is simply not going away anytime soon?
Well, we're dealing with the agenda. I mean, I'm just one person there, and I was in 6 different policy meetings today, including a few with him and a few with the vice president. So we're just plotting forward, and in addition, the other items are the budget, spending, and certainly tax reform. You've heard Secretaries Mnuchin and Ross and Director Cohn. They put the out there. By law, the Senate has to score through the CBO. It's, it's planned before you go forward, the health care plan before you go forward, tax plan this calendar year, possibly after the August recess. I don't think the calendar is as important as the principles that are laid out. And
so
we
not
as a
so much
nation,
an inspirational message from him to you guys, but just keep on your work.
But he knows we don't need inspiration, because nobody there is what the reports say we are, which is downtown staff shakeup. Where is that? We've been hearing this for 4.5 months. It's completely ridiculous. The president continues to move forward with his team every single day on behalf of the American people I know are watching. And very importantly, everybody who is supposed to be allegedly in the doghouse still works in the White House. And I want everybody to really focus on that.
Jeff Sessions, who I hear is not going anywhere anytime soon,
the president has confidence in people who work for him. And it's very simple. Just as everybody around here assumes that their bosses have confidence in them because they're working here. But I also...
She looks like she just came off the beach. I love her. Don't get me wrong. I'm just poking and joking right now. I don't mean it meanly. She does look like she just flew. She kind of always looks like she just flew off the beach. Just like I love Paul Joseph Watson from InfoWars. But that dude looks like he just woke up every time he gets on the screen. Like he's got sleep in his eyes. Yeah, but I hope everyone does realize this woman is the first woman to ever successfully win a presidential campaign.
I just wanted to mention that we as a country every year spend about 7 billion hours and $250 billion complying with the tax code. That just has to stop. We have to simplify it and modernize it and make it fair to small business owners and unleash that investment. He's also doing a lot on energy. So it's just a very exciting time. If people would focus beyond the silly, unfounded gossip and who's testifying on which...
I'm not going to click. Sessions accuses of perjury. He did. I'm not doing it. I could keep us here all day. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Not Fake News. Don't forget to share, subscribe, smash that like button. And important, very important, when you hit subscribe, years ago, or previously, you would just have to hit subscribe, and then you would get all the videos made by that channel. Well, now you have to hit subscribe and hit the bell. That's right. So hitting subscribe does nothing anymore. Hitting subscribe really does nothing. All it does is show you our videos when you're searching around. But if you want our videos, then as they come out, sent to you in an email, then you click the bell, and you will get those videos sent to you, and you'll know what's going on before anyone else does. And that's always fun and good to know. But here's another thing you might not know. We usually put out the news a day earlier than even Fox News does. So we're a day ahead of everybody. That's how it is with all alternative news outlets. We get the trickle down first, and then the mainstream media gets it. And it makes sense, because let's say I get the news at 9 o'clock in the morning. Yes, I'm sure Fox News got it at 8 o'clock in the morning, but they don't air it until 8 p.m. when they get it all together and they get the host in to say it. I'm on there at 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning putting them out. That's why we have the news before anyone else, usually. And I don't just mean me. I mean alternative channels like us. Thanks for watching Not Fake News. Hey folks, if you like that video, you will love the one we picked out for you right where those arrows are pointing. Just click on it, and I'll see you in a moment. Thanks again for watching Not Fake News.